occurred inside Netflix headquarters? Let's just say, far from celebratory. What was supposed to be the thrilling launch of With Love, Meghan Season 2, had turned into a slow-motion disaster. Week after week, the blows kept landing. The reshoots had only just wrapped. Editors were scrambling, piecing the season together before the deadline. And behind closed doors, executives whispered about slashing the marketing budget, not because Netflix was strapped for cash, but because they weren't sure they even wanted the show noticed. And at the very center of this storm, Meghan Markle. Her latest press tour appearance didn't just stir trouble, it threw gasoline on an already raging PR fire. She stepped onto the stage, flashed her signature polished smile, and launched into what she likely believed was an empowering speech. But instead of winning hearts, her words ignited a social media firestorm. Meghan declared that women in America were too heavily influenced by men, lacking the courage to stand up for themselves. She spoke as though she were a chosen guide for women everywhere, framing With Love, Meghan as a roadmap to personal and professional independence. On paper, bold feminist messaging. In reality, many thought it came across as self-important and downright condescending. But she didn't stop there. She pivoted to masculinity, claiming there's been a steep decline in real masculinity and a dangerous rise in toxic masculinity in 2025. She went further, arguing Hollywood would be better run by women, who she said are more level-headed and less driven by vanity than men. The backlash was immediate. Headlines called her out of touch. Critics accused her of alienating vast swaths of the audience. Even Netflix's own analysts labeled the marketing campaign a colossal failure before the season had even aired. And this wasn't her first PR misstep during the promo run. Behind the scenes, Netflix bosses Greg Peters and Ted Sarandos faced a dilemma they couldn't simply cancel away. Meghan's contract, insiders said, was ironclad and costly. Pulling the plug on Season 2? Not an option. That left only one play: damage control. Keep the show quiet until it landed on the platform. Late-night appearances on Stephen Colbert, Jimmy Fallon, and Seth Meyers? Axed. The multi-million-dollar marketing blitz? Cut to the bone. Even Meghan's backup career plans were fizzling. Sources say she'd pursued commercials, from insurance firms to cruise lines, but every lead evaporated. Those doors closed as quickly as they opened, leaving her without the safety net most stars fall back on when acting work dries up. Still, Meghan doubled down in interviews, blaming Season 1's weak ratings on audiences not understanding the format, rather than any fault in the show itself. She promised Season 2 would be a hit now that the brand was established, calling each episode a blueprint for becoming both a proper woman and a real man. Even her own fans found the phrasing puzzling. For Netflix, the goal had shifted. This wasn't about promoting the show anymore. It was about containing the fallout. In a dimly lit conference room, a small group of executives scrolled through social media feeds. Post after post ridiculed Meghan's quotes. Memes compared her speeches to cheesy, outdated motivational posters. The numbers told an ugly truth. Engagement was high, but for all the wrong reasons. Ted Sarandos let out a weary sigh, tapping his pen against the table. "We can't erase what's already out there," he told Greg Peters. "We just have to control what happens next." The new strategy was clear. Limit her exposure, stop her from igniting more backlash, and hope the small but loyal fan base would still show up. The irony? Netflix had once banked on Meghan to be a PR powerhouse. Now she was a PR liability. Meanwhile, the production team was in overdrive. Reshoots had become chaotic, less about creative vision and more about patching plot holes and dodging plagiarism allegations. Editors were working 14-hour shifts, stitching together 8 episodes from a messy mix of new and salvaged footage. The top orders? Make it coherent, make it trailer-ready, and spend not a penny more than necessary. As for Meghan, unshaken. In a recent online magazine interview, she once again argued that Hollywood should be led by women to restore balance. She positioned herself as a pioneer of that movement, declaring With Love, Meghan a cultural milestone that future audiences would see as a turning point. Critics saw it as proof Meghan didn't just view herself as an actress. She saw herself as the leader of a movement no one had asked for. But Netflix's biggest headache wasn't the backlash. It was the contract. Signed during her peak popularity, it made canceling the show nearly impossible, without paying massive penalties. So, they went with a stealth release. Minimal press, no live interviews, no splashy premieres. The plan was simple: drop the show quietly on the homepage, fulfill the contract, and let it fade into the background. The strategy was already in motion. Guest appearances were canceled under scheduling conflicts. Photo shoots were pushed indefinitely. Social media activity was stripped down to generic, reusable posts. Industry watchers were split. Would hiding the show keep it safe, or kill it entirely? For Netflix, saving it wasn't the goal. Surviving it was. By the time the final cut was complete, the frantic energy had given way to quiet resignation. Editors trimmed anything risky, buried awkward moments deep in the episodes, and patched dialogue with voiceovers. This wasn't art. It was damage control disguised as a TV series. At 3 a.m. Pacific time, the show went live. No Times Square billboard, no red carpet, no viral campaign, just a banner on the homepage, wedged between mid-tier releases. Inside Netflix, they waited. Would controversy flare up again? Or would the series vanish into obscurity, overlooked in favor of crime docs and fantasy epics? Nobody knew. Meghan had weathered bad press before, but this time felt different. Her combative interviews, paired with Netflix's retreat, had created a narrative she couldn't easily spin. Headlines speculated on her future, throwing around terms like Hollywood exile and brand in free fall. Her team tried to project confidence. In one final statement before the premiere, Meghan called Season 2 her most important work yet. A roadmap for empowerment, at a time when men and women both needed clarity on identity. She insisted it was more than entertainment. It was education. Supporters saw conviction. Critics saw tone-deaf arrogance. When release day hit, reactions came fast and split. Fans defended her fiercely. Detractors mocked the series online, turning clips into punchlines. Hashtags trended briefly, fueled as much by irony as by genuine interest. Reviewers didn't hold back. One called it a well-shot but overbearing lecture disguised as a cooking and conversation show. Another said it mistook monologues for meaning. The numbers trickled in. The series failed to break Netflix's global top 10 in its first week. Inside Netflix, some quietly called that a win. Low visibility meant low risk. But for Meghan, it was grim. Without ratings momentum or fresh positive press, her career options narrowed. Studios hesitated. Brands went quiet. Even smaller streaming platforms seemed uninterested. It felt inevitable. Another high-profile deal ending with a quiet exit. Within days, Netflix moved on, shifting attention to its next big release. With Love, Meghan slid down the homepage carousel. The noise was gone, but so was the shine. A show once pitched as a flagship series had become a cautionary tale, an expensive lesson in the gamble of celebrity-driven content.